Good morning. I am going to try and make this video as short as possible. I know I say this in all my previous videos, but I plan to keep that, to make that the case in this one. So as always, starting off with the dollar index. Sorry. We have the monthly chart that we respected this buy-side imbalance, this fair value gap in the form of a buy-side imbalance. Going to the weekly, we've been sketching out these internal buy-side liquidity, starting off with this one that we tagged last week, then proceeding to aiming for this one before finally this high. The reason I'm still bullish on the dollar for the week and weeks to come is because we did not take out this buy-side imbalance with, this buy-side liquidity with a convincing push to the upside. We didn't explosively pass the buy-side liquidity resting here. We of course have this one now highlighted because I wanted to see price possibly respect this CB, this fair value gap sitting from this candlestick's low to this candlestick high on a weekly chart of the dollar index. I want to see if we can use it as a stepping stone to see higher prices. Of course, going down to the daily chart, we can obviously see that we've traded well below the CB on the weekly perspective. Earlier, as the week was still beginning, I was paying attention to this fair value gap, this candlestick's high to this candlestick's low. We have a buy-side imbalance resting in the middle there. But then if you remember a few videos ago, I believe 4 videos ago, I mentioned how this price range from here to here, how in this whole range right here, we've gotten price move up, then down, then up, then down, then up, finally, and broke out of it. To the point that I have a feeling, I guess from experience, and I don't know the right terminology to use, but I have a feeling that we may not revisit this price range anymore. So if that's the case, then we may not have to return to this buy-side imbalance. We may not draw down to this low anymore. And considering that Monday's price action has played out as it did here, then Tuesday, today, we made a new low of the week so far. We could see a new low tomorrow being Wednesday, and we could possibly come into this buy-side imbalance, but I wouldn't like to see that personally. The other condition I don't want to see is us trading and closing below this weekly CB, this highlighted purple zone. I don't mind us trading below it, but by the end of the day, I don't want the closing price to be below, to be resting below the CB. In this case now an inverse fair value gap. So that's ultimately what I'm looking for on the dollar. Higher prices, of course. With this in mind, everything else should fall in place. Starting with the Nasdaq on a daily chart, we can see there's an order block there resting beautifully within a fair value gap in the form of a sell side imbalance. So I'd like to see if we could respect this order block, this candlestick right here, if we can respect it and see lower prices. Where would I be targeting? Be targeting these equal lows resting there on the 1st of June and the 8th of June. So I would like to see lower prices on Nasdaq starting from that level. The same on ES. We may not reach this order block, but I would like to see us tap into this CB, this fair value gap, but ideally not close it completely, because we can clearly see that ES is a little bit weaker. It hasn't tapped into that fair value gap, while Nasdaq has already tapped into it and completely covered it now. So I want, as Nasdaq is tapping into it, into the other block, I would like to see S&P 500 not even cover the fair value gap completely. Just a quick tap on it is enough. And while we're here, let me set an alert on it. And where would I be targeting? Obviously sell side liquidity resting here, this inefficiency on a 4-hour, and ultimately we can see if we can reach this sell side liquidity here. I'm not sure about anything lower than that, but short term I'm targeting these lows resting here and there. And with USD CAD, similar stuff, similar structure as the dollar. The difference being that we did not make a new low today. This was yesterday's price action. We can see we created a low of week. Today we did not make a new low, and we are currently rejecting, I believe, from around, not exactly on, but from around the consequent encroachment of the, actually it might be, so the consequent encroachment of this tail is 1.35204, and looking up here to see the low, looking at this number, let's compare this number with the consequent encroachment. So we have 35204 and the low of this is 35206. So we were two pips, I believe. I'm not even sure if it's up to 2 pips. I think it's way less than that. But yeah, we're just shy away from the consequent encroachment of that. But I would like to see price essentially respect this and see higher prices. I'm also noting how we have no tail. Of course, this might just be this broker, but we have no wicks, I mean, on these candles. We have no wicks on these candles, and I always see that or take that to be one of the stronger forms of liquidity. So I'm looking to see if we can purge that high this week. And yeah, so I may not be focusing on the pound, but essentially similar structure across the board is what I'm looking for. Here we have the weekly chart. On a weekly chart, my chart is a little disorganized, but on a weekly chart we just traded up here today, Tuesday, traded up to this candlestick's low and rejected from it. So I'm looking to see if by the end of this week this would now become an immediate rebalance, because if that's the case, we may see not only this low tagged, we might also see this inefficiency from this candlestick's high to this candlestick's low. We might see this inefficiency filled if we get an immediate rebalance, if we close bearish this week without creating a new high on the euro. So that's all I'm looking for. Of course, the same goes for the pound. I'm looking to see lower prices. I'm just not sure where we could see a rejection from, because the pound has been a bit sideways, a lot more consolidative than the other ones. And that's essentially what I'm looking for. I don't think or believe anything would pop up besides those currencies. Of course, if anything else comes up, I will cover it. For example, USD ZAR. This obviously is an exotic pair. I'm not really the biggest fan of this, but because the BRICS event is going on this week from Tuesday to Thursday, we may see a reaction in the rand, because the South African rand is part of the BRICS currency, possible new currency that we may be finding. And I would like to see if we could reject off of this weekly fair value gap. The same way that I want to see higher prices on the dollar, I would like to see us react from here. But for me to take a trade with an exotic pair, I'd prefer to see some sort of market structure shift, possibly after wiping this, taking out this sell side liquidity. I'd like to see a market structure shift to the upside on a 15 minutes or 1 hour before considering a buying opportunity to take it up. The same goes with USD JPY. I'm looking for stronger dollar, so I'm looking to buy UJ. I'm looking to buy USD JPY for a little bit of a different reason in this case, because I actually have an analysis on this, I believe, on a different chart. So yes, I wanted this. I was looking at this buy side liquidity on a weekly perspective. I also looked at this order block, which is a high probability order block because of this fair value gap resting on the right side of it and going down to smaller, lower time frames. We have a nested fair value gap with an extension of that order block. So I would like to see if we can get a swinging opportunity for this pair to take it all the way to 151.944 buy side liquidity. So these are the only other new ones I might be checking from time to time. For now, that's all I have. Good luck and good trading.